Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Humans unleashed the supernova fleet and changed the galaxy forever. The Galactic Assembly always considered humanity an insignificant race, a primitive, warlike species barely scraping by on the fringes of the known universe. Compared to the towering empires of the Zir Dominion, the cold efficiency of the Vec Consensus, and the ancient wisdom of the Callan, humans were little more than insects, unpredictable, chaotic, and ultimately harmless, or so they thought. For centuries, the Assembly had monitored humanity's progress, ensuring they remained contained within their own little star system. The few encounters between humans and the greater galactic powers had only reinforced the belief that these creatures were technologically inferior and strategically inept. So when the Dracoth Empire launched a brutal assault on the Sol system, no one in the Assembly intervened. The Dracoth were an expansionist race thriving on war and conquest. Their fleets were unmatched, their warriors merciless. Earth, in the eyes of the Assembly, was doomed. Except something strange happened. The Dracoth invasion fleet, boasting over 1,000 warships, entered the Sol system with ease. Their forces overwhelmed the outer colonies and shattered the orbital defenses around Mars in a single day. Humanity barely fought back. Their outdated ships engaged in skirmishes, but the resistance was laughable. Then Earth fell silent. No transmissions, no distress signals, no desperate pleas for help. Just silence. And then the supernova fleet emerged. The universe had grossly underestimated humanity. The Dracoth fleet vanished without a trace, every last ship obliterated. The Galactic Assembly scrambled to understand what had happened, sending reconnaissance drones and spies to investigate. What they found defied all logic. A fleet of warships unlike anything seen before now patrolled the Sol system. Their design was eerily unfamiliar. Sleek, black vessels that seemed to swallow light itself. They moved with impossible precision, their weapon systems beyond anything the Assembly had ever conceived. And then came the message. Humanity had never been weak. They had never been primitive. They had only been waiting. The supernova fleet was humanity's true strength, hidden for centuries in the depths of space. It had been built in secret, beyond the reach of prying eyes, prepared for the moment when the universe would come knocking. And now that moment had arrived. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted overnight. Humanity was no longer an afterthought. They were the storm on the horizon, the reckoning no one had seen coming. The Galactic Assembly had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated the one species that had spent its entire history preparing for war. And now the universe would learn what it meant to face humanity's wrath. The Galactic Assembly's High Council chamber was silent as the holographic projections played before them. The wreckage of the Dracoth fleet drifted lifelessly in the void of space. No distress beacons, no escape pods, no survivors. The assembled diplomats, military strategists, and intelligence officers stared in horror. The Dracoth were not weak. They were conquerors, warriors who had subjugated dozens of species, crushed entire civilizations under their boots. Yet humanity had wiped them out in a single decisive counterattack. "This is impossible," murmured high speaker Vales of the Calvin, his pale silver eyes locked onto the floating debris. The Dracoth fleet should have overwhelmed them. There was no record of Earth possessing such advanced technology. No record because they hid it, growled Admiral Zorth of the Zir Dominion. They played the role of prey while sharpening their claws in the shadows. He clenched his three-fingered fists, and now they have shown their fangs. The meeting room buzzed with tense murmurs. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had delivered a message. The supernova fleet had been hidden for centuries, an unseen force lurking in the void. How had they managed to construct such powerful warships without detection? Where had they gathered the resources? More importantly, why had they waited until now to reveal themselves? A new transmission flickered to life in the center of the chamber. The face of a human appeared, sharp-eyed, cold, utterly calm. He wore no military uniform, no grand regalia, just a simple black suit. "This is Fleet Commander Ilias Voss of the Supernova Fleet," he said. His voice was steady, almost casual, but the weight behind his words sent a chill through the chamber. "I believe you have questions." The silence was suffocating. The high speaker leaned forward. What have you done?" Voss tilted his head slightly. "What we had to. You exterminated the Dracoth without mercy," barked Admiral Zorth. "That was not war. It was annihilation." Voss's expression didn't change. "They came to burn our world. We return the favor. A murmur of unease rippled through the assembly. You were never supposed to have this kind of power, the high speaker said, his voice barely above a whisper. The assembly agreed that Earth was to remain contained. Ah, Voss said, his lips curving slightly. You assumed containment was your decision to make. The high speaker stiffened. We watched, Voss continued. We listened. For centuries, we played the part you expected. Primitive, fractured, unworthy of notice. You saw our wars, our struggles, our chaos, and you assumed we were incapable of unity, of progress. That was your mistake. A new set of holographic displays appeared behind him. Detailed schematics of Supernova-class warships, energy weapons far beyond anything the assembly had encountered, stealth technology that rendered fleets invisible to sensors. You thought we were a species of war, Voss said, and you were right. But unlike the Dracoth, we do not wage war for conquest. His gaze hardened. We wage war for survival. The room was deathly silent. You never saw us coming, Voss said, and that was by design. The screen went dark. For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Assembly felt something it had long forgotten: fear. The silence in the Galactic Assembly chamber was thick with tension. No one spoke, no one moved. It was as if the entire weight of the universe had pressed down on them all at once. For centuries, they had viewed humanity as a minor race, reckless, disorganized, insignificant. Now the very thought of them sent a shudder through the highest ranks of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Admiral Zorth was the first to break the silence. We cannot let this stand. His voice was sharp, laced with barely contained fury. The humans have kept their power hidden for centuries. That means they have been deceiving us from the beginning. This supernova fleet, it is a direct threat to the stability of the assembly. Stability? Scoffed Counselor Irana of the Vex Consensus, her glowing eyes flickering with cold amusement. I believe what you mean to say is that they are a threat to the dominance of the old powers. She leaned forward. You fear them, Zorth. Zorth bared his sharp teeth. We should all fear them. They did not just repel an invasion. They erased an empire in a matter of hours. He turned his gaze to the high speaker. If we do nothing, we will be next. The high speaker, still staring at the now dark screen where Commander Ilias Voss had spoken, exhaled slowly. Perhaps, he said at last, humanity does not seek war beyond its borders. Their actions were defensive. We all saw the transmissions. Sol was attacked first. They only responded. Zorth slammed a fist against the table. Then why did they hide their true power? Why keep the supernova fleet secret unless they were waiting for the perfect moment to strike? His reptilian eyes narrowed. They were playing the long game. They let us believe they were weak. Now they have revealed themselves, and they expect us to do nothing. Counselor Irana folded her hands. Perhaps the better question is, what happens if we challenge them? The chamber fell into uneasy silence again. The answer was obvious. No one knew the full capabilities of the supernova fleet. Humanity had kept it hidden for a reason. If they had spent centuries preparing for this moment, how much more were they hiding? If they had annihilated the Dracoth without breaking a sweat, what chance did the rest of the assembly have? The high speaker finally straightened his posture. We will not act in haste, he declared. We must learn more. If the humans do not seek conquest, we must understand their true intentions before making enemies of them. Zorth hissed, but did not argue. He knew the unspoken truth. If the Galactic Assembly miscalculated, they would not survive the war that followed. Deep within the Sol system, aboard the command bridge of the dreadnought Oblivion's wake, Elias Voss studied the latest intelligence reports. Across from him, Rear Admiral Claire Holden stood at attention. They're scared, she said with a small smirk. The Assembly doesn't know what to do with us. Voss nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. They expected a cornered animal, he murmured. Instead, they found a sleeping predator. He turned to the main viewport, watching the supernova fleet as it moved in perfect formation. Their ships were silent specters, weapons primed, shields humming with barely contained energy. They will not attack, not yet, Voss continued. But they will try to probe us, find weaknesses, look for leverage. He exhaled. And when they do, we will remind them why humanity has survived against impossible odds for so long. Holden crossed her arms. What are our next orders? Voss let the silence hang between them before speaking. We wait. Holden blinked. Wait for what? Voss's gaze was cold as steel. for them to make the first mistake. The Galactic Assembly wasted no time. Within hours of their meeting, reconnaissance fleets were dispatched toward Sol. Officially, they were diplomatic envoys sent to open communication channels and establish peaceful relations. Unofficially, they were spies. The first fleet belonged to the Zir Dominion, 6 battle cruisers, each equipped with state-of-the-art stealth scanners and long-range observation technology. Their mission was simple: gather intelligence on the Supernova fleet, identify weaknesses, and report back before humanity could detect them. They never returned. The last transmission received from the Zir fleet was a garbled, static-filled warning. They see us. Then silence. The assembly reeled. How? The Zir were masters of stealth, their ships cloaked beyond detection. Yet humanity had seen them coming. Worse, they had eliminated them without hesitation. Panic set in. If the humans could detect stealth ships, if they could erase an entire fleet before it could escape, what else were they capable of? Still, the assembly refused to accept the truth. The Vex consensus tried next, sending a probe disguised as a drifting asteroid. It was small, nearly invisible to most standard detection systems. It never made it past Neptune. The probe's data logs, recovered through a backup relay, showed something terrifying. Humanity wasn't just waiting, they were watching. Even the smallest, most insignificant movements within the Sol system were tracked in real time. It was as if the humans had turned their entire system into a hunting ground. Then, for the first time in history, the Supernova fleet moved. A single warship, a sleek, midnight black vessel larger than any known dreadnought, left the Sol system. It passed by Pluto in absolute silence, slipping into deep space without a word. The assembly watched in stunned horror. "Where is it going?" the high speaker asked. No one had an answer. The Zir suspected it was heading toward their homeworld. The Vec believed it was a warning shot, a demonstration of power. The Calvin feared something worse. An envoy not for war, but for an ultimatum. And then, 3 standard cycles later, a message arrived, not from the humans, from the Dracoth, the same species that had supposedly been wiped out. Their message was short, terrifying in its simplicity. We were wrong. They are not conquerors. They are not invaders. They are something else. You do not understand what you have provoked. We surrender. The Galactic Assembly was thrown into chaos. The Dracoth were warriors, undefeated in countless battles. They did not surrender. Yet here they were, broadcasting their capitulation across every known frequency. What had humanity done to them? The answer came sooner than expected. One by one, ships began appearing on the edges of assembly space, not in attack formations, not in fleets, just watching, observing, studying. And then, in the heart of the assembly's capital system, a single human warship appeared, one of the Supernova fleet's dreadnoughts. It moved slowly, deliberately, taking position above the largest trade hub in the galaxy. It did not fire. It did not speak. It simply waited, waiting for the assembly to decide its next move, waiting for them to understand what had already become inevitable. Humanity was here, and the age of the old empires was over. The massive dreadnought hung above the Galactic Assembly's trade hub like a specter of judgment. It was unlike any warship the Assembly had ever encountered. Black as the void, with no visible weapon systems, no thruster trails, no energy signatures that could be detected. It was as if the ship itself had been carved from the darkness of space. Panic spread across the capital system. Civilian ships scattered, governments issued emergency orders, and planetary defenses were placed on high alert. Yet the human warship made no aggressive move. It simply existed, an undeniable force pressing down on the assembly with nothing more than its presence. The high speaker called an emergency meeting. Every major power in the assembly was present, some through holograms, some physically seated in the grand chamber, but all united in a single unspoken fear. No one wanted to be the first to speak. Admiral Zorth, his patience long exhausted, finally broke the silence. "This is an act of war," he snarled, his claws digging into the metallic surface of the table. "They send a warship into our heart and expect us to sit idly by. We must retaliate." "Retaliate?" Counselor Irana scoffed. "With what, exactly? Do you not remember what happened to the Dracoth?" Zorth bared his fangs. "The Dracoth were arrogant fools who thought brute strength would win the day. We are not so reckless." The high speaker steepled his fingers, his face unreadable. And yet our intelligence reports confirm that every attempt to infiltrate Sol has resulted in complete failure. If they can track our stealth ships, if they can eliminate entire fleets before we even register their presence, tell me, Admiral, how do you propose we fight an enemy we cannot even see? Zorth fell silent, his frustration evident. Then another transmission arrived. Unlike before, this one was not a broad, ominous message. It was direct, sent exclusively to the high speaker's personal channel. A single sentence, "It is time to talk." The high speaker hesitated only a moment before nodding to his aides. "Open a secure line." The chamber held its collective breath as a new hologram flickered to life. Once again, Fleet Commander Ilias Voss stood before them, his expression as unreadable as before. "You waited," the high speaker said, his voice carefully neutral. "You did not fire, did not destroy, did not demand. Why?" Voss clasped his hands behind his back. "Because destruction was never our goal." "Then what is?" For the first time, a hint of amusement flickered across the commander's face. "Understanding." The room stiffened. Zorth snarled, "You expect us to believe that after you wiped out the Dracoth?" Voss tilted his head slightly. "Did we?" Silence. The assembly had seen the wreckage. They had assumed, but they had never truly confirmed. The Dracoth's message rang in their ears. "We surrender." "What did you do to them?" the high speaker asked. Voss's voice was calm. "We showed them the truth." "What truth?" "The truth about us, about what we've seen, about the war that is coming." The chamber went cold. "War?" the high speaker repeated. "With whom?" Voss leaned in slightly, his gaze intense. "You think we built the Supernova fleet for you?" A wave of unease rippled through the assembly. Voss exhaled slowly. "We are not your enemy," he said, "but something else is. And it is coming." The hologram flickered out, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. For the first time, the Galactic Assembly understood a terrifying reality. Humanity had not spent centuries hiding their strength to deceive them. They had been preparing not for war against the Assembly, but for something far worse. The chamber remained deathly quiet.